All right, looks like we're live. I'm doing this on my phone. I don't see. I hope that the sound is okay. Otherwise, I may have to do this over. Let me see if I can bring up the live chat. All right. No, my hair is okay. So,
Do you want me to check if it sounds okay? I can go to
no, I think it's probably fine. No one's here yet, but that's okay because I know it's early. I'm on Eastern time, and it's like what time is it here? 8:30. So in California, it's like 6:30 in the morning. Somebody did jump in though. Hey, somewhere cat. So okay, I just want to know if my sound is all right before I get into this. Um, I know this is really spontaneous, but I haven't seen the channel in for. I know I've been really. Things have been crazy around here. Sound is good. Okay, good. All right. Yeah. So, in case you guys don't know, I don't know why you wouldn't, but I have my wife and I and the dog. We have recently relocated to Virginia, and it was an arduous, stressful, and in some ways, just depressing process. Right? I left my family behind, left my friends behind, and I did it because of all of the chaos and the violence and the destruction and the political posturing and the economic inevitable collapse that's going to come to the big cities like Chicago. And it's all a product of, I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's all a product of what the left is doing. It's their fault. It's their doing. It's what they're doing, period. There's really no other way to put it. I can't sugarcoat it. I can't pretend like it's not that's not what's happening because that is what has happened. And now that I'm here in um, Southwest Virginia, uh, it's beautiful and people are civil and um, it's it's just a lot better. So at least so far, it's only been I don't know a week and a couple days since we got here, but we like it already. It's just the stress is just melting away. And that's why I wanted to make this video, this live stream about this particular topic. So when I woke up in the middle of the night because I had to go to the bathroom. It was about 3 in the morning, and I'm looking at my tablet while I'm there, and I see a post on Facebook by Helen Pluckrose. And Helen Pluckrose is one of the three three amigos of, I guess you could say that they're like professors that criticized sort of feminist social theory or
grievance studies.
they call them the grievance studies professors. But and I'm sorry the phone is shaking here because I have it on the table. It's mounted up. The grievance studies professors, and they wrote a whole bunch of like phony hoax papers to sort of expose social justice warriors in academia, right? And they did a lot of work in it, and they know how this stuff works. They know the internal um, logic of far left cultural Marxist, social constructivist, academic social justice types, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Basically, authoritarian, academic, intellectual assholes. Okay. And they know how that works. They know what the system is. And they exposed it with their phony papers. So it doesn't really shock me, but I think it will for many that despite people like Helen Pluckrose knowing that this is a pervasive and dangerous and destructive ideology, she still is a leftist. She still puts herself in that camp, and she believes it firmly. I had her on the show as a guest. I managed to get her on as a guest once, and I interviewed her with Aiden Paladin, and we talked to her about that. And she was very fervent in saying, I'm still a feminist, and I still believe firmly in these things. So what ultimately she's against is the excesses, or what she would describe as the excesses, or what she might describe as the radicals, or the stuff that it's not backed by science and fact, even though feminism itself is not backed by any science or fact. So that was a red flag for me. And I think that while people are fighting with Antifa thugs and Black Lives Matter racists and people in all kinds of far left groups, and they're acting like absolute nut jobs, like straight up tanky communists and things like that, they're missing that the moderates that still align with them, or just want to call out the extremists, or I don't know, maybe want to restore the good name, they're concerned with leftism's reputation, are going to be doing just as much damage, because they're afraid to lose their relevancy. They're afraid that if they I think what it is they're afraid that if leftism's reputation is exposed for what it really is, which is ultimately violence and authoritarianism. It doesn't matter how moderate you are. It doesn't matter how like you say, well, I just want, like Shu says, I just want healthcare, bro. It doesn't matter. It always devolves into authoritarianism, violence, and murder, because that is the nature of leftist thought. It doesn't matter how moderate you are. You're just basically trying to decide how much force is necessary to do what you want. And maybe you're less, okay with overt violence up front, but you'd rather be disconnected from that violence, if it's state violence, for example. And I think the left they're having a kind of struggle with that. They're wrestling with that, but it's true. It can't be avoided. And I say that as somebody, I voted for Barack Obama twice. I was on the left. I considered myself on the left up until probably 2016, maybe, or 2015, until I really started to think about what it was I was advocating for and what it was that I really believed. And no, now I'm not. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the rhetoric around left and right. But I digress. I'm going to get into this article, or this opinion piece that Pluckrose wrote. And I want you to bear in mind, because I read about this, and I was so angry that she would even write this, knowing what she knows about how the left operates. I was so angry I couldn't sleep for another hour. I was just laying in bed thinking, and that's why I'm making this video, because I got to get this off my chest. I mean, how can you know what your ideology does and still support it? Now, let's get into the article. So, Helen Pluckrose, open letter, she says, on the US election, critical social justice and liberal leftism. Okay, right off the bat, there's no such thing as liberal leftism. It's a lie. There's no such thing. There's just leftism. And liberalism is completely separate. Stop saying classical liberal. Stop it. You're a liberal, period. That's not leftist, because those things are not at all compatible. All right. Dear American liberal lefties, I hear the arguments some of you are making for voting Republican for the first time next month. I understand that you fear that a vote for the Democrats, while radical social justice ideas are at their greatest ever influence, is tantamount to enabling those ideas to embed themselves deeper into vital institutions. You think there is a credible threat that this will lead to the dismantlement of freedom of belief and speech, the further institutionalization of critical social justice beliefs in government, employment, media, and education, the undermining of science, and the stoking of racist identity politics that divide Americans and threaten to roll back decades of progress on race relations. Well, that's because all those things are true. That is what's going to happen. But anyway, I'll keep going. You tell me you don't like Trump and you don't support the Republican platform. You assure me that you haven't suddenly lost your commitment to racial, gender, and LGBT equality or your progressive aims for economic and social policies. You don't necessarily think Biden is a radical social justice extremist. You do doubt that he has the necessary strength of character and commitment to stand firm against the radicals, and that this could have catastrophic consequences for all Americans. All right, so she's speaking to people who are anti-Trump, which if you're still anti-Trump at this point, I'm not saying you have to be like, cringe MAGA, like waving American flags and blasting, Hulk Hogan's I'm a Real American. But I mean, he hasn't done that. He hasn't really been that bad of a president. Like Biden and Harris are, by comparison, there's absolutely no comparison. And if you saw the debate, and that's the thing too about this Pluckrose thing, she put this out right around the debate. I think it was before the most recent debate. And also bear in mind that Pluckrose is not, she's not American. Not that doesn't mean that she's not allowed to have an opinion, but she's not here with like I lived in Middle America. I know what's going on. All right, anyway. So yeah, this sentence, you assure me you haven't suddenly lost your commitment to racial, gender, and LGBT equality or your progressive aims for economic and social policies. So see, this right here is the problem I have, or one of the problems. Why is it only the left cares about racial, gender, and LGBT issues? Now, of course, she says equality. And equality is a bullshit word. It's bullshit. No, it is. It's a bullshit word because, look, equality, and I mean both equality of opportunity and equality of outcome, because no one starts at the same position. And so equality of opportunity should only mean that everybody gets out of your way. But that's not what it means. People want a boost. They want to start at the same position, but that's not how the world works. Okay? So even with equality, I'm okay with equality of opportunity if it's like, basically the government gets out of your way. But the fact is, people aren't going to start from the same position, and they're certainly not going to end the same. And so what we want is for people to just be out of the way. That's all. That's the extent to which the state should be involved. But she seems to believe that the left owns the idea of fairness and equality. Okay? They don't own that. That's not their possession, because as long as you think like equality is like the domain of the left, then you have to assume that inequality and unfairness is the domain of the right, and that's just not. That's like saying we're the party of good things and they're the party of bad things, right?
It's just kind of a difference of priority, I think.
Yeah, but
I can't really get into it because like I'm biased, right? Because I think that equality isn't a priority.
no, it's not. It's see, the thing is, you can have equality or you can have freedom, but you can't have both.
Really?
Yes.
I guess it depends on what kind of equality you're thinking of.
Well, no, the equality of like, well, I mean, what I think people would determine to be equality differs, and that's why it's such a sloppy and messy word. Like, I'm not equal to myself on some days, right?
Sure.
Like that's why it's so. It's just like this word that doesn't. It's mired in feels. It doesn't mean anything really. I mean, if if by equality, and this is why what I hate because the left has done this, they've distorted language so much that you can't discuss ideas without everyone having to say, well, what does that word mean to you?
Yeah,
Because they
like,
fucked it up,
well, like,
right?
the thing is like, what are we comparing it to, right?
Right,
Like, what? It's like in the men's rights stuff. It's
exactly.
like you want equality, so you're comparing women to men, but you're not really, because you're not looking at the men overall. You're just looking at the top 1% of men, right? So is equality just like looking at the top 1% of like successful, I don't know, business people?
Yeah, and or they do things like they look at the Supreme Court and they say, look at all these old straight white guys,
Yeah.
and so like that's what I'm
So
saying.
like
Like the
it's not equal because there's not enough other races here.
right, and there aren't enough women, and there aren't enough LGBTQ folks, and the fact is, like, it's just
Well, yeah,
it's just a word
that's
that
stupid. The only thing you can really like convince me of is the equality of opportunity.
yeah, but
That sounds okay.
equality of
Right.
opportunity sounds
But I mean, it's also kind of impossible.
exactly. That's my point. It is kind of impossible because if I'm born with like no legs, like for example, am I supposed to demand that you I don't know give me legs so that I have like
Or
I'm
like,
saying
or like,
or if I have a brain like
how are you
disorder
gonna
or
make
something.
like every school exactly the same and like
Exactly.
every household exactly the same? So like like the parents are reading their children and it's a two-parent home and like you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like
I'm
all of
saying
those
like
like things are like the biggest like success
yes.
changers.
I think that what we should do is try our best to ameliorate any like large differences, but I don't think that the state should be involved in that. I think that's what I'm saying. I think that if you involve the state in that, you're necessarily going to create inequality. And when leftists talk about equality, they are talking about the state. Whether they're saying equality of opportunity or equality of outcome, it doesn't matter because every solution the left wants has to involve the state because that's the way they do things. They say, we're going to make this change and it's going to be top down and we're going to we have to elect someone and it has to be done um, it has to be done via the state. So this anyway, my point is because I'm really getting hung up on this equality thing. My point is Helen is framing all of this social justice topics as something that despite the fact that the left has only done the opposite, the left is also the only entity capable of the compassion required to solve those problems,
Yeah, but
right?
they don't really give you solutions. Like, what are the
No.
solutions to, like, what is it they say? Institutional racism? Is it
Um,
just like putting different colored people
give
at top
power.
positions?
It's basically
That's
give
it?
power and money to people of color and also the people who are asking for solutions to institutional racism because they want to sell their book, they want to be in
But like,
positions
okay,
of
so
political
then you
influence.
have like a lot of democratic cities that have a black mayor, a
Yeah,
black police
and they
chief,
go to
black
shit.
police, like is that still institutional white supremacy or
Yeah,
whatever?
because there is no well, that's what I'm saying. There is no end goal.
That's not the solution either then.
No, but that's what they'll keep saying because they're basically like, look, we had a black president for 8 years. He was still a victim of institutional racism. So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, what the left says they believe. First of all, they try to be like, oh, we're the party that believes in good things and we're against bad things. That's literally what they do. They say we're for good things and against bad things, which means the right is against good things and they're for bad things. So you have to vote for us because we're for the good things. But when you vote for them, they don't fix anything. They just
No,
complain
I think
endlessly.
they make it worse.
Absolutely, they make it
Time.
worse.
I mean, if you look
And
at
you got to stop.
reality,
Exactly. And you got to stop giving them that. Just look, take it to feminism, just as an example, because everyone can get on board with that. Feminism says we're about equality and you know, we're just for the good things. That's basically their whole thing. We're just about being decent human beings that treat women like people instead of objects, whatever. You know, that's the rhetoric, right? So they have already they start off framing themselves as the good people. So if you aren't a feminist, you are necessarily a bad person because you're against the things that they are for.
Right.
Even though in practice, that's not at all how it plays out. And so people don't have a problem, and I think that this is becoming more and more common. They don't have a problem calling that out when they say, well, you know, feminists are clearly not the people who own the monopoly on equality or being good to women or women's rights or men's rights or anything, right? They're just an industry that gets power, influence, and resources mostly from men for themselves, and then they keep complaining. And that's exactly what every other civil rights group does. It's not about solving problems, because whenever you bring up, well, you know, with the black community, say, well, we have a black on black crime problem here. They say, well, why are you distracting us from clearly the bigger problem, which is, you know, white supremacy? Yes, whataboutism. Well, we clearly have a problem with, you know, broken families and absentee fathers, and there might be a link there. What's with these patriarchal norms that you're trying to push on black community? And it's like, well, you don't want to solve the problem, and you just, there has to be a point at which you revoke the left's ability to say that they own a civil rights cause, because they don't. They just don't. You know, like, I watched a video by a guy who I like. His name is Grimachu or Grim Jim, and he's, you know, he talks about men's rights issues. He is in England. He's far left as far as I'm concerned. I think he's just on the left. Basically, if you're on the left, that's you're kind of complicit at this stage. You're complicit with violence, even if you don't want to do it yourself, because you keep making excuses for your side, like, well, that's not real leftism and shit like that.
Well,
but
I don't know, like,
I think so.
When I was a leftist, I definitely didn't want like an authoritarian force coming and fucking up people's lives. I just like what I wanted is to live in a commune, but I wanted everybody to like do it for me, you know, like just this like utopia.
Sure,
like,
but
we're all gonna
so
share.
So you didn't want the government to make things equal and fair?
No, but I thought that like it could just happen if we all agreed on it as like a society.
But you had to get everyone involved, or would you
almost
just take
everybody,
like, yeah?
Everybody.
So in order to do that, you would have to force them.
But the thing
But you
is,
wanted everyone to do it willingly.
I was not into making people do anything.
I know.
I just wished that
yes,
people would do
yes,
things
yes.
for me, you know what I mean?
No, I understand that, but
so
I'm
like maybe that's part of the manipulation that like
yeah.
a lot of leftists do, is they want to manipulate into like wanting to do things for them.
Yeah, well that's why I'm saying my point is that even if you're someone who says, I want to live in a society where it's sort of like a commune and everyone pitches in,
we, like,
yeah, right, and we all like take care of each other and all that.
Yeah.
If you form that community and someone in that community starts saying, you know what, I don't think this is a good deal, I don't want to do this, they're either going to get kicked out or they're going to be forced to do it.
Yeah.
Because they can't just leech off of the system at that point.
Well, I mean, I think they often do. I think a lot
sure,
of
as for as long as they can get away with it.
In those kind of like hippie communes.
Yeah, there's always
even
some
squatters.
Sure.
They like end up in these situations, and like they like paint it as it's like, oh, it's like a utopia, everybody's doing art and they're playing music and like everybody's getting along.
Yeah.
I'm like, really though?
Yeah, I stayed
no
in
conflict?
one. I was in a commune for like a weekend or something. I went to New Orleans years and years ago. And it was just like that. They were literally squatting in a building that no one owned.
Yeah.
They were all making art, doing drugs,
Were
and the place was a fucking mess because nobody cleaned up. Yes, of course there were. Yes,
yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I only stayed there for 3 days or whatever it was, but again, if you can make it work, this is the thing about that.
Yeah,
if you can make it work, go for it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's not in general what leftists want, because if it was, they would just go do it. but
Yeah,
they want the
but like,
state to
see,
do it. They want everyone to be a part of that. And the
yeah,
only way to do it is to get the state to do it.
I didn't have the balls to go out in the wilderness and start my own commune, right? So like, part of my leftist like thinking was getting everybody to do it.
Yeah.
But I was not thinking as far as like, oh, I'm gonna force these people, but like obviously that's what it would take, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I would give leftists a break that like maybe some of them haven't thought as far as like, oh, in order
No,
for this to happen,
I
need
agree.
force and
No, I
majority.
agree. I don't think that they know that that will be the ultimate consequence. But it is going to be the ultimate consequence. Like if unless you're just doing a small little commune for you and your buddies, then maybe like I don't know up to like 50 people, maybe even 100. Um, Unless you're doing something like that, in which case you deal with that on your own. But most of the time, people just think that that same kind of family unit idea of communism, which is ultimately like the family unit is
It's
kind of
actually like,
socialistic, right?
well,
But
it's
but they
actually
want to
not
expand
really
that to
like.
this sort of bohemian ex-mansion thing.
I think it's like a natural thing that humans want to be in like a tribe of so many people, right? I
Yeah.
actually don't think it's like. I think it's like actually more of a what do you say, like people are predisposed to think that way and want that over like living in a huge ass city or something.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I said,
They feel like a cog.
In a capitalist society, and I'm not arguing the US is a capitalist society. It could be a lot more free market, but in a capitalist society, you can form a communist
Yeah. No, I absolutely
state,
believe
like
that
a
you can be
commune.
really involved in your community
Yeah,
and be against consumerism and still live in
absolutely.
a capitalist society.
But you cannot do the reverse.
No.
So, okay. So anyway, Helen, my point is the left does not own being good and moral. It doesn't own that, and stop doing that. Um, and yes, a Biden-Harris presidency would certainly reverse everything, and that's only in the social. Like economically, it would be disastrous. Trump was right when he said if you elect this guy, you're going to see a depression the likes of which you've never seen, because he's going to end the oil industry. He's going to keep us locked down. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like we were doing really well before COVID happened. And I personally believe that the Dems used COVID to damage the president. And in the process, they have harmed innocent citizens. People have lost jobs, people have lost their businesses, their livelihoods, things that they've invested in. There's been suicides, there have been deaths, and then the riots. And I think that was by design, personally, because they want power. All right, but anyway, I already read that paragraph. You think Trump, awful as he is the candidate who will stand against it, and it is better to vote for him as an interim measure to give the left 4 more years to address its social justice problem and return to liberal values of gender and racial equality, while also remembering its commitments to the working class who are suffering the impacts of deindustrialization. You tell me that your liberal conscience tells you that Trump is the lesser of 2 illiberal evils right now. Trump is not illiberal. Where are you getting this from? He is like Trump is not illiberal. He is not evil. Why do you believe what you read in the news? Why? Helen, where are you getting this from? He was the most LGBTQ friendly president in history. He's the only one that was for it from the get-go. Okay? He has done more for black people than any president since Abraham Lincoln, which is absolutely true. He's done prison reform. He's given them tons of jobs. Most of that problem was coming from illegal immigration, which he stemmed. That's not racist. It's decidedly not anti-racist, What are you talking about? Why do these narratives about Trump persist? It doesn't matter what you think about him, but like you have to look at the actual like consequences, like the things that he's actually implemented. He brought home the troops. He signed peace deals. He just signed one like the other day, and or like oversaw one, another one. The outrage is completely unfounded, completely. I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't see it. Like, I've heard some criticisms, and I'm not talking about personality flaws. I'm way past that. I don't give a shit about that. In fact, I want to say that I think that if you're hung up on personality flaws of the president, you are buying into a kind of feminine way of looking at um, politics. You're getting caught up in, oh, it's about how you say things and your tone and the words you use. Like, I don't give a shit what people say. I give a shit about what people do. And the actions of the president have been pretty good. I don't have a problem with it. And he's fighting back against wokeness. What did he ban? He banned critical race theory in the way that he can, which is basically in like a federal, as part of like government training, and I think in like public institutions. So basically the kinds that he's not going to go into private institutions like companies and private schools and universities that are not government backed and say you can't do this, but he is against it. So within his ability to do so, he has done really good in that regard. Okay. I think the only things that I wish he would, be a little bit firmer on is free speech on social media. But I think even then, he's still kind of a boomer and probably doesn't know how that whole thing works. So he's trying to figure that out. And again, also, you have to be very careful as a president that you're not overreaching, your authority. What's up?
No.
Oh, but like, I don't get this. Like, this is like, there is no contest, dude. This is not about Trump is not the lesser of two evils here. It's just not. It's just ridiculous. Damn. I mean, I'm, like I said, I'm not a cringe MAGA person, but I mean, from what I've observed, he's done more good, far more good than harm. So, all right. Then she continues. I hear you, but I think you're wrong. The left cannot be made more liberal. It's not liberal. The left is not a liberal set of ideas. It's just not. So that's why it can't be made more liberal, because it isn't liberal. The left cannot be made more liberal by people going right. Yes, it can. Actually, this is why like I'm so like fervent on trying to drill down on this idea that being right wing is what happened to my internet? Did it turn it off? Oh. This is why I drill down on this idea that being right wing is the further right you go, the more libertarian you are, and it has nothing to do with like what you believe socially. That those things are different. Because the left uses that. They believe that they are liberals, but they're not. Like, even during the time of the Berkeley free speech, I want to say they were free speech riots, but there were free speech demonstrations in the 60s. That was simply communists that exploited the First Amendment to communicate their ideas. So they were leftists that were, yeah, sure, because it. Well, I would say exploited or took advantage of.
I think you can exploit it. It's a right.
Well, I know it's a right, but I'm saying they used it to push push their ideas, but beyond that, to identify with the liberalism that gave them the platform to speak in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then once they had it, they wanted to take it away from everybody else. So in a way, yes, they are kind of because they exploited something that was a gift. That from what I know anyway, this is the only country in the world that has free speech as an absolute right by the state. Okay, and leftists in the 60s call themselves liberals, said, I'm liberal, I believe in free speech, now let me tell you about communism. And they did that in the 60s in Berkeley. And then when I think as a product of that, and I think that the feminist movement did the same thing too. That's why they call it women's liberation, right? I think that as a product of that, they basically said, okay, we're liberals now, right? But I don't think that they are. At the end of the day, they aren't, because they don't believe in free speech as a universal principle. They believe it only for themselves and people who agree with them. The feminist movement doesn't believe in equality as a principle. They believe in what? Basically just more power, more money, and more fame for them, not even for women, for them. And I think that maybe exploit isn't the right word, but they used a tool that existed for everyone to give themselves leverage that they would later use against their opponents. So,
or try to take away from their opponent, I think is what you're trying to say.
Exactly. So, anyway, yeah. So there is, Trump is not illiberal. He is probably one of the most liberal presidents we've had in a while. And being on the right is not illiberal. Being conservative can be, but that's a separate animal. You know? And even then, like the liberal thing, the fact is most people, no, everyone is liberal on some things and conservative on other things. That's why the liberal conservative descriptor is pretty useless, because everyone has a limit in terms of their liberalism, but everyone is liberal to a degree. Some people are not okay with misogynation, but they're okay with same-sex marriage. Some people are okay with all of that, but they're not okay with pedophilia. Some people are okay with pedophilia, but maybe they draw the line at necrophilia. I don't know. What?
Well, the pedophilia thing isn't liberal because it's like impacting other people's rights.
No, but I mean liberal is in like being open to new things. And if like let's say the underage person is like a teenager and they would normally have been sexually active. I'm just saying that there is, for every person, they have like a line that they are not willing to cross, and that's sort of like where their own personal type of conservatism says no, not this.
Yeah.
And everything up to that is the degree to which that they are liberal. And I think liberalism is about social issues like that, like race and gender and religion and whatever. Left and right is not about that at all. It's about it's just about the state. It's just like, do I use the state to solve problems? Do I want to make it bigger? Do I want to give it more authority? Do I want to give it more credence? Do I want it to be involved in things that maybe it normally wasn't meant for, or not? And the less of that you want, the more right-wing you are, and the more of that you want, the more left-wing you are. That's all. It's not a moral judgment. That's the way it works. That's why the fascists, the Nazis, the communists, and the people in the Nordic countries that are none of those things, they're all leftists. They're okay with degrees of authoritarianism, even if it doesn't look like jackboots goose-stepping down the streets. It doesn't matter if it looks like that or not, because at the end of the day, if you're in Sweden or whatever country it is, I think it might be Sweden or Norway, I don't know, but one of those countries that has like a flat 25% tax on, or whatever it is, on what you make, no matter whether you're rich, poor, or middle class, if you refuse to pay those taxes because you think that it's unfair or you don't like that system, then after a while, people with guns are going to come to your house and they're going to ask for your taxes. So it doesn't matter if it looks like Nazi Germany, fascist Italy, or the Soviet Union. It's all on the left because it basically relies on, we're going to use the state to solve problems, which means everyone has to pay in because the state doesn't make money. And you're either okay with that because you want to benefit from, socialized healthcare, free college, whatever, but you have to basically say, I'm okay with this amount of violence. And if someone in your country says, I'm not okay with that, then they really only have what, two choices? Either they leave and they go somewhere where they don't have to pay into that system, or they pay into that system, or they go to jail. So, that's just the way it works as far as I'm concerned. Okay, but anyway, she says the left cannot be made more liberal by going right. This is why the left-right thing has to be fought against. This dichotomy is incorrect. And if Helen Pluckrose understood that concept, okay, she wouldn't have to have this concern that if the right rises up, we're going to bring back slavery and Jim Crow and take away women's right to vote and shit like that, because that's where that comes from. There's this thing in her head that, right-wing people they hate women and minorities. That's ridiculous. If that were likely to happen, we would have seen the social justice movement diminish in power and influence during the last 4 years of the Trump presidency. Yeah, well, because Trump didn't want to destroy it, right? Instead, it has gained steam and become a dominant illiberal force in society. The hypothesis that the left will come to its senses and ditch the identity politics and general work wokery if the population, especially its traditional working class base, surges right has been disproven. Instead, CSJ has become both more dogmatic and more mainstream in response to this development. Critical social justice, that's what CSJ stands for. Biden is a moderate liberal. He's pretty conservative, if you ask me. Not a radical social justice activist. He lacks the charisma and rhetorical power of Obama, but his platform is very similar. The lip service he has paid to identity politics is regrettable, but he has condemned the violent riots. I mean, he condemns violence in general, but he also did not condemn Antifa. He said it was an idea, not a group. And he wanted to focus on the Proud Boys, who are not violent. But okay. His presidency would have to deal with the extremism problem, giving him the chance to push the social justice left back with liberal leftism. He's not going to do that. He's counting on the votes from these people. He wants the left's vote. Now, of course, Antifa hates Biden too, but he's trying to pander to them anyway. And they'll probably vote for him. They may say that they hate him, and they probably do, but I think they hate Trump even more.
Man, I know why you got so angry. This is starting to make me angry.
You know what I mean?
Like, these people are really scary and violent and powerful. Like, we should put them in power.
Yeah, we should give them what they want because they're scary. What if they get worse? It's like, fuck them. They don't deserve anything.
Yeah, you're making these ideas worse. You gotta vote for them.
Yeah.
What?
That's what I'm saying. It's fucking bullshit. Okay. The lip service he has paid. The lip service he has paid to identity politics is regrettable, but he has condemned the violent riots. Yeah, no, he hasn't. Not really. His presidency would have to deal with the extremism problem, giving him the chance to push the social justice left back with liberal leftism. There's no difference between social justice leftism and liberal leftism. Liberal leftism believes in what social justice leftism ultimately believes. Social justice leftism is just taking it to its logical conclusion. That's all it is. You're just mad because they're exposing your ideas for what they ultimately conclude in. I moved out of Chicago to get away from this shit. And people like Helen Pluckrose, who are supposed to be smart, they're so entrenched in this idea that their ideology is still morally right, that they're still on the right side of history. They're so entrenched in it that even when it exposes itself for what it really is, they cannot let go. They have to say, oh, but OMG, what about the right? What about them? They're not doing anything. All right. She probably didn't. She probably made some comment about Kyle Rittenhouse when he shot those people.
Reminds me of
What?
I think we watched this thing a while ago. It was one of the Weinstein brothers.
Yes.
Was saying that I'm really worried about a right backlash.
Yes. Yeah, it was Eric Weinstein that said that.
Are these?
I think
these two are connected.
Well, I mean, I think they know each other because I'm pretty sure that the grievance studies professors have been on Brett's podcast and Eric's probably. I know that there was that guy who was making a series of documentary videos on YouTube where he talked about the Evergreen College thing. And I almost guarantee you, I know actually, that the Weinsteins, this is why I don't like them. This is why. Because they are okay with, essentially they're still, they still have TDS. They still believe that leftism is the way to go. They just don't like the extremism, or what they're calling the extremism, because it exposes what their ideology is about at the end of the day. And look, ANCAPs and libertarians, and I think you guys are far right, fight me if you want, whatever on it, but that's what I believe. No, I'm serious. ANCAPs are far right, deal with it. You're all the way on the end. That's the way it works, because it's either you're for no state or you're for all state. Are you in good hands? So, anyway. Yeah, so the thing about you know what? I'm going to come back to the Weinsteins in a second. But basically, they believe that they're still on the right side of history, that their ideas are the best, that liberalism and leftism are one and the same, and that those things are basically on the right side of history, right? And ANCAPs and libertarians have talked a lot about how leftism ultimately must conclude with violence in order to get what it wants. It must, right? And I agree with them. So, okay. Let's keep going. That is the only way it can be pushed back. The left can only be fixed by the left, and liberal leftists need to stay put and do that. Most importantly, there is the rest of the Democratic platform compared to the Republican platform. Do you want a minimum wage and progressive taxes? No! No, I don't. This is it right here. See? This is leftism right here. Minimum wage. So do you want, let's read it another way. Do you want robots and computers to do your job because you're being asked to, your companies are being asked to pay you way too much? Do you want small businesses to basically collapse because they can't afford to pay you? Do you want progressive taxes? Do you want to only tax the top 1%, 90% of their income, so that they move their company to another country and also take away jobs? Well, that's how you get it. Do you want a minimum wage and progressive taxes? No, I don't. Do you want universal health care? Fuck no. And a strong welfare safety net? No!
I'm open to it.
No.
You want to fight me?
Look. Universal health care is going to get people killed.
It's mostly shit.
It's mostly shit.
Yeah.
And a welfare safety net is basically just another way that you're basically going to enslave men and have them pay for women.
It's better than having no health care.
Yeah, but yes, but you can fix the healthcare system without making it universal.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have an alternative. She says just universal healthcare. See, she just wants free shit. That's what this is. Do you want free things? Do you want free things? That's not going to be free. Men are going to pay into that. The men are going to pay into it in the vast majority. And women are going to benefit from it in the vast majority. Because they're more likely to go to the doctor. Because they're more likely to...
men do go to the doctor.
Sure they do. But I'm saying it's going to be lopsided. That's my point. All right, I'm back. I don't know why that happened. Something happened with my Let me see if my battery is okay. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, so what I was saying is, hi Jojo. Hi Jojo.
You're
Hi Jojo.
scaring him with all your ranting.
You okay, buddy? Hmm? Um, what? Jojo,
Jojo
please
wants Gibbs too.
get down, buddy. All right. Anyway, that's another divergence, but at the end of the day, it's wild because the people on the streets that are burning down cities are also asking the people who own the businesses that are being burned down to pay for their health care and college and welfare checks. The people who are doing this are asking for money from the people while they're destroying their property
Yeah.
and also don't believe in property, which apparently Helen Pluckrose doesn't believe in property because even though she probably would say, well, I'm not a socialist or a communist, blah, blah, blah. I just want men and I just want people to just pay into stuff like in crazy amounts. Like we couldn't. And the thing is, it's not the healthcare for the US. Like we're a country of 300 million people. We're not like, Sweden, which is like largely homogenous and has like a tiny population compared to us. It's just not going to work. It's just not. Like, this is just a ridiculous. And again, it's just this feel good thing. Like, don't you want these nice things? We are the only ones that care about this. No, you're not. People on the. You know what? It's funny. I forget what it's called. I think it's called Patriot Care. And it's basically like a subscription model for healthcare that the right put out. And then there's charity, which they do overwhelmingly better. Well, I wouldn't say the right. Let's say, I guess the right. I was going to say conservatives, but I'll say the right. Yeah, in general. I mean, there is a lot of overlap, but
I do think that if, like, that charity type of thing would be much better because then people would do it voluntarily. And then it's like, say they want some kind of like fame or reward for it.
mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, they're human, right?
Yeah.
Acknowledgement. I did this for you. Then they would be because it would be like a
Yeah.
voluntary act that like
Exactly.
so and so donated this much and it helped my child with cancer care or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and there are
they
doctors
get to
that
be heroes.
do exactly, and there are doctors that have done like stuff pro bono, right? They have. So like, why? I'm not saying that it's a substitute, but I'm saying that the idea that universal healthcare is the only solution. It's ridiculous. It's just like an oversimplified thing. Again, if you start doing that, if you start taxing the 1% or the top, 10% of 1% or whatever the fuck it is at this point. First of all, you're not going to be able to afford to help everyone. You're going to have to tax way more people than that. Second of all, the richest people are just going to leave.
Well,
why wouldn't they?
Continuing my thoughts on that,
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps build community too because then it becomes more reciprocal, right? Like, I was doing really good, so I donated some money to you and I helped you out, and now maybe you're doing better than I am, and
right.
it can be reciprocated, right?
Right.
That's like community building shit.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the reason why people are against the idea of charity, or maybe they don't even entertain it, is because I think they really have a low opinion of people in terms of their ability to be charitable. And I think that part of that is because they aren't charitable. Like, people who are themselves greedy are going to assume everyone is greedy.
Yeah.
So they're going to say, well, you're not going to give. Well, why? Well, not enough people are going to give. Well, why do you say that? Because I wouldn't do it. Like, well, think about it. Who are the people who are advocating that we just house immigrants? They're like super rich megastars, right? Super rich politicians, super rich entrepreneurs, and super rich movie stars and stuff. But they don't give one of their houses away because they wouldn't do that. They think that it has to be done by force and it has to be done to everyone else. So anyway, I'm getting on a tangent. I'm almost done with this article,
I'm
but
kind of helping with that, aren't I?
yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. You can stay if you want. So she says, do you want universal health care and a strong welfare safety net? I think that we should definitely not be doing that. Do you think effective action on climate change and COVID management are important? This is another one of these talking points, man. This is like the leftist mindset. All you can think about is minimum wage, taxing the rich, universal health care, welfare, climate change, COVID, LGBTQ issues, white supremacy. It's the same old shit. And the fact is, what most people care about is none of that shit. Most people just want to make sure that they can put a roof over their heads, put food on the table. That's it. They just want to keep their families safe, and they want to make sure that they're secure, and the left is not for that. I'll finish reading the rest of her thing. And again, she is all of these things that she's saying, do you want X? She's doing this under the assumption that Trump doesn't want that he's against that, and that Biden is for that. So she's framing it in Biden is for good things, Trump is for bad things. Just remember that, because it's not true, okay? So do you want to protect, do you think effective action on climate change and COVID management are important? Okay, so climate change, it's just become another progressive left-wing talking point, okay? I have not heard anyone of any significance say that climate change does not exist. I have only, and if you're just going to look at the best arguments against it, and Trump has made this argument, I've only had an issue, or I've only heard that people are basically saying, all right, so climate change, I want to help be a part of the solution to this problem, but the way in which people are trying to solve this problem, I don't agree with. That's basically it. The Paris Accords was a bad deal. The China and India, which have the highest levels of pollution, that contribute the most to the climate change problem, weren't asked to pay into it, but the US was. It just sounds like a scam to me. The Green New Deal is literally just socialism. And Biden said that he is for that. So that has nothing to do with climate change. That's just a shakedown. COVID management. You mean like that? Again, it'll destroy the economy, because what I bet that Helen Pluckrose is going for is that we should be locked down more, and that things should become more authoritarian and more controlling, and basically more like Australia, where cops come to your door if you even consider going out without a mask. Do you want to protect same-sex marriage? It's not going anywhere. That's ridiculous. And women's access to reproductive health care and abortion.
Do you mean free abortions?
Yeah, do you mean like government funded, i.e. funded by taxpayers, i.e. funded by mostly men abortions?
I think this is just proving that we're not liberals, according to her.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying, like, okay, let me just finish. What about effective gun control, reform of the prison system? He's already done prison reform. He's like let a bunch of guys out that were basically going to prison for minor drug offenses, which I'm for. I think that Trump is ultimately against.
Them going to jail?
No, I'm for them like
decriminalizing.
Yeah, drugs? Decriminalizing drugs. Gun control. No, fuck that. Typical British point of view. And abolition of the death penalty. I think that's something. The death penalty thing is a conversation that should take place, but there are good arguments for both sides. So, do you want to protect undocumented migrants and give them a safe pathway to legal citizenship? Trump's not against that, but also beyond that, nobody is entitled to citizenship. Nobody. So if we decide we just don't want to give people citizenship anymore, we don't have to. That's the truth.
God damn it, Brian.
It's true.
You're gonna get me deported. Shut up.
We don't owe anyone citizenship. No one deserves it. It's a gift. It's a privilege. And if you're crossing the border illegally, I think that your citizenship path should be completely revoked. Because if you're willing to break the law, then we don't want people like that in our country. That's what I think. I think that if you break the law trying to get in, then you have just thrown away any chance you had at citizenship. So, if you do, you are a liberal leftist, and the liberal left needs you to stay put and fight for this. You can go, look, why does Helen think that if you move right, all of a sudden you stop believing in any of these things?
Well, those things, yeah.
Well, sure. But like, if you move right, but you believed in those things before, then what will likely happen is you will basically just reformat what you believe the solutions to those problems should be, rather than just going with the normal.
You perceive them as problems at all.
Yeah, it might change if you perceive them as problems at all, sure. But I mean, like, people are allowed to change their minds, obviously. But she doesn't see. Let me just finish this, okay? She says, please vote Democrat next month. Yours in friendship, Helen Pluckrose. P.S. No, I won't be denouncing any of my friends who think differently, and neither should you. So, Helen Pluckrose, you're not going to solve any problems. As long as you're going along with this BS, you're not going to solve any problems. You're only going to exacerbate them. You have not even challenged your own ideas. And I can see that because despite the fact that the violent social justice left has acted out the logical conclusion of what the liberal left wants, which they're not liberal, let's face it. None of this is liberal. It's all, I think you know what, now that I think about it, if men pay more into the taxes than women do, and they do, I want to get some data on this, some specific data from this guy named Dean, much more men pay into taxes than women. If men pay more into taxes than women do, maybe it is easier for leftists to not see that, to see their causes that should be taxpayer funded. Maybe it's easier for them to see that as liberal because they don't see what men put into the system. Am I muted? Can you not hear me? Oh, it was you. Okay. Maybe that's easier for them to see it that way. Because if we were, let's say that it was women that were putting into the system more, or we were taking something from them, like, I don't know, we needed to like increase our birth rates, so we mandated that women have more babies because we wanted to like increase the population, because we need more people for the workforce. They would probably see that as oppressive because women would be essentially giving up their labor, no pun intended, to make the country better.
It's a good pun.
Yeah, it's oppressive to women, and rightly so. I think it would be. But what I think is interesting is that when it comes to tax money,
okay.
No, when it comes to tax money, they act like that money is just like, it's just there. It's plentiful and they can just use it for whatever. And they're basically saying, why don't we use it for these things? But they don't know, well, they must know where it comes from, but they seem to think that taxation is charity and that it's just the right thing to do, but they're not considering the people who have to pay into that. They're only considering where it goes. And it seems to be things that, like what? Like, I'll go back to this. Women's reproductive health care, abortion, universal health care, climate change, COVID management, progressive taxes, obviously, free college. She didn't say that, but that's what a lot of progressives are asking for. And so who benefits? Who benefits from that? It's not men. They pay into it. I think that it's basic.
I mean, they could technically take out of it too.
They could. I'm not saying that
they
might
not necessarily need to pay into it either. Jojo, come here. Hey, come here. No bark.
Jojo.
No bark. No bark.
He can't help himself. If there's like activity outside the apartment, he has like he barks like it's the hiccups. He can't help himself. Um yeah, this is infuriating. The reason why it's infuriating is because I think that it's
You think it's a incentive?
disincentivizing
Yeah.
or disincentive
Yeah.
to do what?
To work, to like pay into taxes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially like if you could just take out and not contribute anything.
Yeah. Well,
We're all broke.
and that's the you see the thing that they don't like. One of the things they don't like about Trump is that he is lowering the taxes across the board, like federally. I mean, he can't. You know that the states have their own. They have to do that on their own, in their own way. But like letting people keep more of their money, is that not like, you know, keeping the products of your own labor? I don't know. Maybe I'm ridiculous. But this is the thing. This is the reason why so I'm so like suspicious of people like the grievance studies professors and the Weinsteins, because I think that I'm just gonna say it. I think that being on the left is illegitimate.
What?
I think it is. I think it's illegitimate. Unless you believe that the only way to solve problems is through state violence, you are supporting a fundamentally immoral position. And I think that there are a lot of people who don't know that that is the ultimate consequence of those beliefs. And to those people, I'm not going to condemn them as people. I'm condemning the ideas because I think that it's indefensible. But I think that, I don't want to say most, but I think that a lot of people who call themselves on leftists, or they see themselves on the left, don't believe that that ultimately leads to authoritarianism. And so they conclude that being on the left is like being liberal. And they also claim that their big worry is that if they don't fight for the left, then the right is going to rise up and genocide everyone, or basically they're going to do something way worse, right?
Yeah, which is weird because like has Trump even changed anything socially? Like
No.
It's not like well maybe the reproductive rights as far as like her list goes. I don't know if he has, but like they keep saying that he's going to.
He hasn't. Amy Coney Barrett herself came forward and said that she's not going to overturn Roe v. Wade. So they can just stop. The fear mongering is all this is. Like even you had to like ask yourself, maybe he did change something, but he didn't. He didn't change anything. He didn't enforce anything. He's joked, okay? Or he's talked about putting someone in prison for burning the flag, but he's never changed a policy. It's just him essentially condemning flag burning, which I think that while you should be free to do it, people should also be free to condemn it. No, look, I don't care what he says. If a law doesn't get changed, then it's basically like it's a moot point. He didn't put any executive orders in. He didn't change any laws. He didn't even bring forth a bill. He didn't do anything like that. I haven't seen it. I don't think it's real. He talks a lot of shit. So what? Don't care. Don't care about what he says. I care about what he does. That's the way that it should be looked at. So, and I think that going back to what I was saying, with most moderate leftists, like average leftists, okay, I don't think they realize that what they support ultimately leads to state violence. I don't think they realize it. I think they just see
Yeah.
it as common sense things like shoe on head, right? She
Well,
just says,
even before
I
that,
just want health care.
even before that, I would say it's immoral because, like, say the abortion thing,
Mm-hmm.
if you really don't believe in abortion for whatever reason, religious beliefs, whatever, then, like, why should you be forced to pay into that? But they don't see that as immoral. They just think, like, everybody should pay taxes and what we all agree on because it's a democracy. So we've decided these things, so therefore you have to pay, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't really like acknowledge that there's like individuals with different beliefs that are like would think that their money is going to something immoral. So like just even on that
Absolutely.
like lower level would be before violence or
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Yeah, but that see that goes back to the other thing though. The left believes that it's morally it owns morality, right?
Yeah.
So if they say, well, women just should get abortions and it should be free, well, that means if you're someone who's pro-life, you don't have a choice because now you have to pay into the system.
Yeah. Like I really don't like that mostly because there's other solutions, you know?
Yeah, but why would we ask women to be adults?
Well, not just that, not just that, but like if you are like, I think women should be able to have an abortion whenever they want, for whatever reason, then like there should be like a separate system that like it allows people that believe in that to pay for that.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know what I mean?
Yes, sure. If I would agree with you if I thought that the um the
I just
reproductive health care argument was one that actually wanted to address female reproductive health care and it wasn't yet another shakedown and just take money from people because Planned Parenthood makes ridiculous amounts of money from the state as well as from their private systems, and they still advocate that women should never have to pay for abortions. That only tells me that they're making a lot of money and they want to keep making money, and it's not about abortions at all. Because if it was, I think that we would find cheap solutions that were accessible but also made abortions rare, which is what I think even someone who is like your average person who's pro-choice would argue that they wouldn't want to see abortions happening all the time, and we certainly wouldn't want people celebrating it. But ultimately, um, I don't think that organizations like Planned Parenthood want abortions to getting women abortions. I just think they want their money.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And I think that you have to. I look at it like, will people do good when you take away their ability to make it free? So, like, if you took away the option of state funded abortions and you had to make everything private, maybe just treat it like a special kind of health service or whatever, but it has to be either private or insured. Will people, organizations like Planned Parenthood, will they give free abortions anyway? No, they'll charge for them. And they'll charge for them all while saying that they should be free. I don't think that it just goes back to what I was saying before about movie stars not giving up their houses but demanding that other people house immigrants, illegals. So anyway, I want to conclude on this. The reason why this made me so mad that I wasn't able to sleep was I think Helen Pluckrose should know better.
Well,
she's sort of praised as a kind of like.
She's definitely not talking to you in that though.
No, she's talking to liberal leftists, but
Yeah.
she is one.
It's those like.
Well, she calls them liberal
red
leftists.
tube type, like leftists that are like, oh, like some social justice stuff is going too far, but I still believe in like social justice as like an idea, and equality and feminism. And,
Sure.
And that like we live in a white supremacist country.
Patriarchy, capitalism is evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
They're not talking to us.
No, I know that. I know that. But I get that. But the thing is, why would Helen make this? Why would she write this? She's terrified.
Yeah.
She's terrified that Trump is going to absolutely destroy Joe Biden in the election. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. But
she might be genuinely worried that if Trump wins again, then social justice is going to be this like I mean, I could kind of see like if Trump does win again, then people that believe in social justice, they'll be like tripling, quadrupling down because like they're fighting the system, right?
yeah, sure.
And now like it's the system, like it is definitely the system because Trump represents all the things that they hate.
Yes.
So they become like more convicted and rebellious.
Sure.
And I don't know if that means
But
that
they
the
are.
ideas will spread. But I do think that she might have a point there.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think that giving them what they want is going to change anything. I think it's going to make it worse. I think that if
I mean, it might make them chill the fuck out because they would be like, well,
as protesters
we're like
and
not
rioters,
fighting against the system anymore.
right? But the thing is, though, but that's
not saying that is a good reason.
No, I know,
at all.
I know. But the thing is, I don't think that. I don't think that the left likes Joe Biden, so it doesn't matter who wins. They're gonna riot anyway.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I don't think it matters. They're gonna and the fact is, if they're gonna riot anyway, no matter what, we have to stop treating them like they're just children throwing a tantrum inside of a Walmart, and we have to correct the behavior. And Trump's going to do that. I don't think that Biden and Harris will.
I don't think you can correct it, honestly. Like they have to.
Well, I'm saying they have to deal with the consequences. That's what I mean. I mean, yeah, they'll have to figure that out.
And they might never, like a lot of them might never figure it out. And
No.
honestly, it might just be because they went to public school.
You're right, absolutely
and, like,
right.
They can't think their way out of that box.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And that goes back to what I was saying about Pluckrose and the grievance studies professors and the Weinsteins. See, they are from academia.
Yeah, and
they created this. They created
it, and then they criticized it.
And then they criticized
far,
it.
But...
Yes, and then they're going, well, you guys are going too far, but then they also like analyze it. They go, well, this is where this comes from, and here. Let me break down where the critical race theory goes wrong, and this is what they believe, and blah blah blah. But also, we still live in a capitalist, white supremacist patriarchy, and we should probably criticize that. And I am afraid of right wingers like rising up and killing all of us, and bringing back the KKK and you know Richard Spencer, who by the way supported and endorsed Joe Biden. But never mind that, we should vote for Joe Biden. Because Trump is the establishment and we're with the resistance, like Wells Fargo and fucking Nike and Apple and Microsoft. But yeah, like it's so convoluted. It makes no sense. And I think that the issue is that the Weinsteins and Pluckrose and them, they have not figured out that they just need to let go. They just need to let go. They should know better. They should know better, but they don't. And the reason is because I think it's because they're academics. It's like Thomas Sowell has said, that like there's no one who. He said there are a few people who are dumber than intellectuals or something like that, or say dumber things than intellectuals do. It's unsustainable. I'm okay with. I don't think it'll happen. Certainly not overnight. I don't think it'll happen, but I'm okay with the Democratic Party completely collapsing and never recovering. And I'm okay with the left completely collapsing too. And now people like Jordan Peterson and others have worried that, if you don't have both of these things, that you're not going to have balance and all that. But I don't think that's what's going to happen, though. I don't think that's what's going to happen.
I mean,
I don't think
probably
that
what would
because the
happen-
ideas
what
won't
would happen
disappear.
is
It'll
the
just no. Go ahead.
Wait, no, what the fuck is the party? The other party.
Republicans.
Yeah, Republicans. This is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
The Republicans would probably split into two parties or
Yes.
three parties because like they don't all agree.
No.
Democrats
No,
don't all agree.
there are rhinos, which means Republican in name only, who are basically still leftists, or they have some. They have a desire to get more power, and then there are, and I don't think they're common. I think that the non-rhino Republicans are rare because most people get into politics because they want power. So you're not going to find many libertarian politicians that actually believe in libertarianism and libertarian sort of principles, because they're mostly getting involved for the political power, So, but I think that, anyway, that's getting a little bit meta, but I believe that.
I don't think that's what's gonna happen, though. I think
No.
the Democrats might lose, but then they'll come back with like way more centrist, more Republican. Like they'll start going that way because that's where the culture is going. If it's going that way, it might go into fucking social justice warrior hellhole.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It might. The thing is that I hope that people have seen that this is the ultimate, like, I guess you could say the ultimate outcome of this academically enforced or academically trained Marxist ideology.
Postmodernism.
Yeah. Well, the ultimate conclusion of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're not out of the woods yet. It still could get way worse. But you can't sit here and say, well, despite the fact that there are all these terrible people, we should probably like keep supporting this party. No, why? Like, if there was like, that's ridiculous. No, sorry, Helen. Just take the L. Just take the L, okay? Because I think that's the only way. Like, young people will realize that, Trump didn't genocide anyone, that he didn't like do all that shit. And I still believe, actually, like, even what's going on now, like when people go online and they look at, rioting and mobs and people like screaming at their cameras about fascism and stuff, they represent a minority, So I mean, I was at the barbershop, and the woman was cutting my hair, and she seemed pretty moderate. I didn't talk to her about politics per se, but she asked me questions about, like, because I told her I was not from around here and that I had moved here from Chicago. I mean, which she picked up on based on the fact that I didn't have a Southern accent. And she said, well, why'd you leave Chicago? And I said, well, because it's gonna economically collapse. Like, it's not gonna recover for a very long time. The destruction and riots and looting are gonna drive large companies away, so they're just gonna move their stores somewhere else, and small businesses are not gonna bounce back. When you add on top of that the lockdowns, it's screwed. And the funny thing is that the people who are gonna suffer the most are the people who are so poor that they can't leave. Or they didn't think to leave. They just feel too attached and they don't want to leave. Like my mother, and she's going to be, it's not good. Like my friends, my mom, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And my heart bleeds for them. And the left did that. So forgive me if I have absolutely no sympathy for those ideas, because they created the problem. They put me in a position where I had to leave. And the woman, she was surprised by that. She thought that religious conservatism was some big problem. And I told her I hadn't seen any evidence of that here. And what was really surprising is that when I drive around Roanoke, I see Trump signs, Trump billboards, Trump 2020, but I also see Biden Harris signs and support for both parties. And there's no fighting, and there are no fires. There's no looting, there's no violence. And she said, well, that's because everybody in Virginia has guns. So they're really polite. But I think that in the people who are really like, out of sorts because of what's going on and they're putting their drama on the internet, they're rare. I think most people are getting along just fine. But if you live in a big city, you're probably gonna run into problems. Like you can't have a Trump sign in Chicago. It's just not advised. There's literally an Antifa guy that lived a block away from us. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At least one. Oh, and then there was that little bookstore. So we had to like sell some stuff, and we know that little bookstore, and there was a woman there wearing a Mao shirt that said something like it had like Chairman Mao on it, and it was something about killing capitalist pigs.
Kill the rich or eat the rich?
Eat the capitalist pigs or kill the capitalist pigs. And I was like, what the fuck? I gotta get out of this city. So anyway, I'm done with commies. I can't take it anymore. And Helen Pluckrose doesn't seem to understand that it is a problem. So we've gone for like an hour and a half. So yeah. I'm gonna stop it here. But you guys didn't send any super chats, you fuckers. Let me see if I can look at your comments. How do I look at them? Okay, here we go. I agree with Xeranx. Xeranx, dude, please announce your streams. I like surprises, but I want to see your content more. Yeah, I'm gonna try and make more now that I'm in this new place. Howard says, what's wrong with 20-year-olds today is nothing more than what was wrong in 5th grade 10 years ago. Wait till you see the 20-year-olds in 10 years from now who are being tortured in 5th grade today. Ugh. Faithful servant, I think people who see themselves as smarter than Trump have a hard time accepting him as president. Yes, that's true. Trump is not stupid. I wouldn't say he's a genius, but he's not stupid. I think that is an extremely elitist belief because you're using big words that you think that makes you smart. It does not. I mean, if he's as dumb as they say, then how the fuck did he become president? Abortion as a health service is enraging. It is a death sentence for the baby. Maybe I'll talk about abortion some other time. I've had some interesting thoughts about that. Charles, what's up? He says the fear is all of things that the left says the right says secretly via dog whistles, not of any stated right position. Yeah, that is bullshit. I remember when Liana Kersner was talking about when they were interviewing Amy Coney Barrett, or they were like, I don't know what you call it, but they were basically had all the senators coming out and they were talking to her and shit. And one of them said, oh, do you realize that sexual preference is offensive? And Liana Kersner said that it uses a dog whistle. Like, she's so fucking crazy.
What?
Like, yeah.
What's the dog whistle?
It's like an anti-gay dog whistle because it implies that being gay is a choice.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But it's not. That's like stupid. People have been using sexual preference as a means of suggesting sort of not heterosexual behavior forever. It doesn't mean, it's not meant to be a dog whistle. I hate all this mind reading bullshit.
Well, I think people say sexual preference because it's like not specific, right? Like it's not saying, oh, you are homosexual or you are bisexual, and they have like 50 million terms for it now. Yeah. So just saying sexual preference kind of like is vague enough. You could say for anything.
Yeah.
You can even say for heterosexual.
That's on purpose. I mean, it's just like more of this language control garbage. And
Yeah. No, I definitely never saw it like that.
no, I never even thought of it that way. Like when I heard that, I was like, really?
Because like
This is coming up
I
now.
prefer men. Is that
That's
sexual preference?
yeah, that implies a choice. Trump, Ergo Proxy says Trump invested millions in black education. Of course, the results won't manifest in a week. And I have to say, I don't know if it's going to actually manifest in anything positive because you can't just throw money at something. I mean, yeah, I appreciate the gesture. Like, he's definitely he deserves credit for trying that. But if the schools are garbage, like the best way to go is school choice. And even before that, like, not that Trump has to do this because I don't think this should be done on the federal level. But if you don't fix the black family, you're not doing shit. And that means you got to get women involved and they got to take responsibility. Um, Iron Adam John, but if people get to keep their own money instead of being taxed, those people won't have to rely on the state for those things that taxes are being used for. Yes, exactly. They'll realize that the government is not as important as they think. Um, Bad internet today.
Oh, is this stream?
Yeah, I'm just reading the comments. I was looking for something um, interesting. Back in my days, we used to call climate change global warming. Yeah, well, they had to change the language on that, didn't they? I want the state to force you at gunpoint to pay for it. What's the middle class? Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go to the end, see if there was any like last things. Zaranx, Leona K is a real rational bro. What you talking about? Yeah. Preferences are not this is Iron Adam John. Preferences are not choices. Whether you choose your preference is a choice. It's true. Sexual preference isn't a choice. Who you sleep with is. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is why I said it's a bullshit thing. But anyway, I'm gonna try and end the show. I don't know how to end it on my phone, but what? Do you want to get in there?
No, I don't.
Okay. She doesn't want to be on the camera, guys.
I just got up
Um,
not long ago. I'm not dressed or anything.
so anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. I just wanted to get that off my chest. It took a while, but I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from with this. And if you want to leave me a comment, that'd be cool. These are the kinds of conversations that Lindsay and I have just about every morning over coffee. So if you want, I could do this more often if you like that. We might do our own channel for it though. So I just did this here because I just had to say something about this Helen Pluckrose thing. It's very disappointing. So, but not at all surprising. Anyway, thanks guys for coming. And if you want, like, share, subscribe, comment, that'd be cool. And yeah, let me know what you think. I'll talk to you guys later. Let's see, is this the button to turn it off? No. Where do you do it? I thought it was like that, but it's not.
What if you just hit the X?
I don't know if that's gonna. Let's see. Oh yeah, stop streaming. Yeah, that's the one. Okay.